Before we begin, viewer discretion is advised. The following contains disturbing real-life allegations and legal testimonies. Everything presented is based on verified court filings and investigative reports. Sean Diddy Combs, once a kingmaker of the music world, mogul of bad boy records, and a fixture at red carpet events, is now facing some of the most explosive accusations ever leveled against a modern celebrity. Multiple women have come forward. Court documents have been unsealed, search warrants executed, properties raided, and now, for the first time, we're getting a clearer and much darker picture of what allegedly happened behind the velvet curtain of fame. The lawsuits read like movie scripts. Secret rooms, violent threats, surveillance, even trafficking, claims. At the center of this legal storm is not just a music mogul, but a symbol of power, wealth, and invincibility, now under the microscope of federal investigation. What led to this unraveling? How did one of the most influential figures in entertainment become the subject of an FBI probe and multiple civil suits? And more importantly, who had the courage to speak up, and what exactly did they say? This isn't about cancel culture. It's not about industry beef. It's about accountability. In this video, we'll break down the verified details of the lawsuits, the chilling testimonies from Diddy's inner circle, and what this all means for the future of celebrity justice. Because once you hear what his former assistant and ex-girlfriend testified in court, you may never look at power the same way again. To understand the gravity of the allegations facing Sean Diddy Combs, we first have to understand who he is, or rather, who he was to the world. Diddy wasn't just a producer or a rapper. He was a cultural force, a business visionary, a self-made mogul who transformed from an intern at Uptown Records into the founder of Bad Boy Entertainment, one of the most iconic labels in hip-hop history. In the 1990s and early 2000s, everything Diddy touched seemed to turn to gold. He launched the careers of the notorious B.I.G., Mace, Faith Evans, and more. He reinvented himself repeatedly, from Puff Daddy to P. Diddy to just Diddy, always staying ahead of the curve. He sold vodka, ran marathons, threw all-white parties, and filled arenas. He was seen as an innovator, a survivor of the East Coast-West Coast rap feud, a media darling who could cross over from MTV to Forbes magazine. He amassed hundreds of millions through music, fashion lines like Sean John, and strategic partnerships. And for years, the public bought into the myth that Diddy was the cool boss, the life of the party, the man who made it out and brought his crew with him. But behind that success, there were whispers. Industry insiders told stories of control, of intimidation, of a man who didn't just chase power. He wielded it without limits. Still, none of those stories were ever confirmed. Until now. Because what we're seeing today isn't just a man facing allegations. It's an empire being questioned, brick by golden brick. The turning point came in November 2023 when Cassandra Ventura, known to the world simply as Cassie, filed a lawsuit that would shake the entertainment industry to its core. Cassie wasn't just a former artist signed to Diddy's label. She was his long-term girlfriend, business collaborator, and one of the most visible women in his orbit for over a decade. But in her lawsuit, she painted a chilling picture, one that stood in stark contrast to their glamorous public image. The complaint detailed a relationship riddled with coercion, violence, and manipulation. According to court documents, Cassie accused Diddy of repeated physical abuse, trafficking her to other men, drugging her, and using threats and surveillance to control her movements. She claimed he monitored her every step with security and hidden cameras, even going so far as to allegedly destroy evidence when she tried to leave. The filing wasn't vague. It included dates, locations, names, and even patterns of behavior. And most shockingly, it included allegations of rape. The public reaction was swift and polarized. Within 24 hours, Cassie was trending globally. Some fans were stunned. Others claimed they'd heard rumors for years. The entertainment industry, often quick to circle wagons around powerful figures, was eerily quiet. Just one day after the lawsuit was filed, Diddy settled. The terms were confidential, but the speed of the settlement raised eyebrows. Why not fight if the claims were false? Why not clear your name? Legal experts speculated that the settlement was a strategic move, not an admission of guilt, but a way to prevent discovery. Because had the case gone to trial, more documents, witnesses, and potential victims might have surfaced. But the damage was already done. Cassie had opened a floodgate. Her courage didn't just lead to headlines, it led to other women stepping forward. Federal investigators took notice, and suddenly, what had once been whispered in corners became a conversation the world could no longer ignore. If Cassie's lawsuit opened the door, Mia's testimony blew it off its hinges. Mia, a former personal assistant to Sean Combs, came forward just months after Cassie's case made headlines. Unlike Cassie, Mia was not a public figure. She wasn't a celebrity. She was a background player, the kind of person whose silence powerful men depend on. But when she finally spoke, her words echoed through the courtroom like a warning siren. In a sworn deposition obtained by federal investigators, Mia described a pattern of fear, manipulation, and abuse that began the day she was hired. "I wasn't there to assist," she said. "I was there to obey." According to her account, Diddy maintained a carefully controlled environment, one where employees were monitored, phones were restricted, and personal boundaries were routinely violated. She detailed how she was expected to be on call 24/7, often accompanying Diddy on late-night trips where her actual duties blurred disturbingly with personal servitude. But her most harrowing allegations came from a 2019 incident in Los Angeles. Mia claims she was summoned to Diddy's estate around midnight. When she arrived, the atmosphere was tense. Music blared, people were drinking, and Diddy appeared intoxicated and agitated. He reportedly accused her of disloyalty and demanded she prove her loyalty. What followed, she says, was a violent assault in one of the estate's side rooms. An attack that left her bruised, bleeding, and terrified. She didn't go to the police. Instead, she was offered money, a non-disclosure agreement, and a silent warning from a senior staff member: if you talk, you'll regret it. But Mia didn't stay silent. In her deposition, she handed over photos of her injuries, screenshots of text messages, and flight records confirming her presence at several locations she referenced in her testimony. Perhaps most chilling was her description of the estate itself. According to Mia, it wasn't just a house, it was a fortress. Hidden cameras in guest bedrooms, security staff trained to look the other way, even a private basement lounge with no windows and restricted access. She described once walking in on what she called a selection process, where young women were lined up and quietly evaluated before being ushered to private rooms. These weren't parties, she said. They were operations. And if you didn't play along, you disappeared. Not physically, but professionally, emotionally, socially. They erased you. Her testimony was a gut punch. It was graphic. It was methodical. And it backed up elements from Cassie's lawsuit almost point for point, down to the controlling behavior, surveillance, and the presence of third-party enablers. Mia's decision to testify helped move the federal case forward. It gave investigators a credible internal witness, someone who had seen the machinery from the inside. And unlike Cassie, who had a public profile to leverage, Mia had nothing to gain and everything to lose. She closed her statement with a haunting sentence. "I didn't quit. I escaped." Cassie and Mia were just the beginning. As news of the lawsuit spread, more allegations began to surface. Not just from women, but from former employees, contractors, and insiders who had long remained silent. In the months that followed, multiple civil suits were filed in rapid succession. Each contained unique details, but all echoed the same themes: manipulation, coercion, intimidation, and violence. One woman alleged she was drugged and assaulted at a private hotel suite. Another accused Diddy of orchestrating her silence by threatening her family. A third claimed she was trafficked through international events under the guise of VIP hosting. The common denominator in these stories wasn't just Diddy, it was control. These were not isolated incidents. According to court filings, they followed a pattern, one that painted the picture of a system designed to extract, manipulate, and silence. Investigators also began receiving tips from former security personnel and household staff. Some described elaborate vetting processes for women invited to private parties. Others spoke of hush payments, burner phones, and contracts signed under duress. And then came the federal involvement. In early 2024, Homeland Security agents executed search warrants at Diddy's homes in Los Angeles and Miami. Armed officers entered the premises, seizing electronic devices, documents, and surveillance equipment. According to reports, the raids were part of an ongoing investigation into sex trafficking and obstruction of justice. This wasn't tabloid speculation anymore. It was the government. Legal experts began to draw comparisons to past high-profile cases, Epstein, R. Kelly, noting that Diddy's case had similar hallmarks: wealth, secrecy, and access to a network that enabled his alleged behavior for years. The narrative had shifted. What was once seen as isolated drama now looked like the unraveling of a long-hidden infrastructure. And the more people spoke, the clearer it became. This wasn't just about one man. It was about the system that let him operate unchecked for decades. In the face of mounting lawsuits, public outrage, and federal investigations, Sean "Diddy" Combs has remained mostly silent, but not entirely. His first major statement came after Cassie's lawsuit, where he denied the allegations and claimed the accusations were false and offensive. But within 24 hours, that lawsuit was settled. And while settlements aren't admissions of guilt, the speed raised more questions than it answered. Since then, Diddy's legal strategy has been one of containment. His lawyers have released carefully worded statements emphasizing that their client vehemently denies all allegations and plans to fight any false claims aggressively. They've framed the lawsuits as opportunistic, suggesting that former associates are attempting to profit from the headlines. In public, Diddy has appeared sparingly. Social media posts have been limited, and appearances at major industry events have all but stopped. Behind the scenes, sources close to his team say he's focused on legal defense, working with a team of top-tier attorneys who specialize in high-profile criminal and civil litigation. One key move came when Diddy's lawyers filed motions to dismiss some of the claims, arguing that the allegations were either too old to prosecute or lacked sufficient evidence. In some instances, they challenged the credibility of the accusers, claiming their motivations were financially driven. But legal analysts say the strategy may be faltering. With federal agencies involved and new testimonies surfacing, it's no longer just about reputational damage. It's about criminal exposure. Investigators aren't just reviewing accusations, they're tracking paper trails, reviewing video surveillance, and seizing assets for forensic analysis. Sources say that part of Diddy's legal strategy now includes negotiating potential immunity, agreements with former staff, hoping to prevent more damaging internal leaks. Still, the question lingers. Can even the most powerful legal team shield someone from a system closing in from all angles? As more victims and witnesses come forward, the pressure isn't just legal, it's existential. For Diddy, this isn't just a battle for innocence. It's a battle for survival. The allegations against Sean "Diddy" Combs aren't just reshaping his legacy. They're shaking the foundations of an entire industry. For years, Diddy was seen as untouchable, not just because of his fame or fortune, but because of how deeply embedded he was in the machinery of celebrity. From award shows to media conglomerates, fashion brands to philanthropic ventures, He was everywhere. But in the wake of these allegations, the silence from many of his peers has been deafening. Few artists have spoken out. Brands have quietly distanced themselves. Industry insiders whisper, but most refuse to comment publicly. And that silence says as much as any statement. For fans, the shift has been jarring. Diddy was part of the soundtrack to generations. His hits weren't just music. They were milestones. So for many, reconciling the artist they admired with the man described in court documents has been a painful reckoning. Yet others say this moment was inevitable, that the culture of unchecked power and exploitation in the entertainment world has always existed. It just took a few brave voices to crack it open. The conversation is now larger than one man. It's about how the industry protects its icons, how fame can shield misconduct, and how many people get hurt before anyone pays attention. Federal investigations are still underway. More witnesses may come forward, and while no criminal charges have been filed as of this recording, the groundwork has been laid. What happens next could redefine how power is policed in celebrity culture. For Diddy, the question is no longer just about public image. It's about consequences. And for everyone watching, fans, media, executives, the question is simple. When do we stop letting talent excuse abuse? Because if this case proves anything, it's that no amount of hits or headlines should ever silence the truth.